What if I told you that God has a secret menu for money that most people never discover? What if the very same divine principles that created the universe are available to transform your financial reality right now? Today I'm going to reveal something that religious institutions don't want you to know and that financial gurus completely miss. This isn't about prosperity gospel nonsense or get-rich-quick schemes. This is about unlocking the actual spiritual laws that govern abundance in our reality. For the past 15 years, I've studied the intersection between spirituality and wealth creation, and what I've discovered will challenge everything you think you know about money. The wealthiest people throughout history, from King Solomon to modern billionaires, have tapped into these same principles whether they realized it or not. But here's the thing, these aren't just ancient secrets locked away in dusty texts. These are living, breathing spiritual laws that are operating right now, in this moment, determining your financial future. Let me start with something that might shock you. The Bible mentions money and wealth over 2,000 times. That's more than it mentions heaven and hell combined. Yet somehow, we've been conditioned to believe that spirituality and money don't mix. We've been taught that wanting financial abundance is somehow ungodly or selfish. This is one of the biggest lies ever perpetrated on humanity, and it's kept millions of good people trapped in financial struggle. The truth is that God wants you to prosper. Not just spiritually, but materially as well. In 3 John verse 2, it clearly states, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." This isn't suggesting that material prosperity is nice to have. It's stating that your material prosperity should match your spiritual prosperity. Think about that for a moment. Your outer world should reflect your inner spiritual development. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think that just because they're good people, just because they pray and go to church, that money should automatically flow to them. That's not how these spiritual laws work. There are specific principles, specific ways of thinking and being that activate what I call God's secret menu of money. And when you understand these principles and apply them correctly, your financial reality begins to shift in ways that will seem almost miraculous to outside observers. The first principle on God's secret menu is what I call divine alignment. This isn't about positive thinking or visualization, although those can be components. Divine alignment is about aligning your consciousness with the same creative force that spoke the universe into existence. When God said, "Let there be light," light appeared instantly. That same creative power lives within you, but most people never learn how to access it for their financial benefit. Divine alignment starts with understanding that you are not separate from the source of all abundance. You are not a beggar hoping that God will throw you some financial scraps. You are a divine being, created in the image and likeness of infinite abundance itself. When you truly understand this at a cellular level, when this becomes your dominant belief about yourself, you begin to operate from a completely different frequency. And money, being energy just like everything else in the universe, begins to respond to that frequency. But here's what's crucial, you cannot fake this alignment. You cannot pretend your way into abundance. The universe responds to your authentic vibration, not to your wishful thinking. This is why so many people fail with manifestation techniques. They're trying to manipulate outcomes instead of genuinely transforming their relationship with abundance itself. The second principle is what I call sacred service. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of spiritual wealth creation. Most people think that to be spiritual, they need to give everything away and live in poverty. Others think they can just focus on getting rich and worry about helping others later. Both approaches miss the mark completely. Sacred service means that your wealth creation is inherently tied to how much value you provide to others. But it goes deeper than just business transactions. It's about recognizing that every financial exchange is actually a spiritual exchange. When you provide genuine value to someone, when you solve their problems or meet their needs, you're acting as a channel for divine abundance. The money that flows to you isn't just payment for services rendered. It's the universe's way of acknowledging that you've been a conduit for its creative power. This is why some people can work incredibly hard but never seem to get ahead financially, while others seem to effortlessly attract wealth. It's not about how hard you work. It's about how aligned your work is with serving others and channeling divine creativity. When your work becomes a form of sacred service, money flows to you as naturally as water flows downhill. The third principle is divine timing and trust. This is where most people stumble, even when they understand the first two principles. They start aligning themselves with abundance and serving others, but then they get impatient. They want results on their timeline, not God's timeline. They start forcing and manipulating instead of allowing and receiving. Divine timing means understanding that the universe operates on perfect timing, not human timing. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the natural process. The same is true with financial abundance. When you've aligned yourself properly and you're serving others authentically, you must trust that the universe is orchestrating the perfect circumstances for your prosperity. This doesn't mean you sit around doing nothing, waiting for money to fall from the sky. It means you take inspired action while maintaining complete trust in the outcome. You do your part while allowing God to do His part. This balance between effort and surrender is one of the most challenging aspects of accessing God's secret menu, but it's absolutely essential. Now let me share something that might surprise you. The biggest block to accessing divine abundance isn't lack of faith or lack of action. It's guilt. Specifically, it's guilt about having more than others. So many good-hearted people sabotage their own prosperity because they feel guilty about succeeding while others are struggling. They unconsciously believe that their wealth somehow takes away from others. This is based on a scarcity mindset that is completely contrary to spiritual truth. Abundance is infinite. Your prosperity doesn't diminish anyone else's opportunities. In fact, the opposite is true. When you become truly prosperous, you become a source of abundance for others. You create jobs, you support causes, you inspire others to reach for their own greatness. Your wealth becomes a blessing not just for you, but for everyone your life touches. Think about the wealthiest spiritual leaders throughout history. King Solomon was incredibly wealthy, and his wisdom and resources blessed entire nations. Jesus himself wasn't poor. He had a treasurer, he wore expensive clothes, he was supported by wealthy followers. The idea that spirituality requires poverty is a distortion that has caused immense suffering. Here's another principle from God's secret menu: gratitude as a magnet. But I'm not talking about superficial thankfulness or gratitude lists. I'm talking about a deep, cellular appreciation for abundance that already exists in your life. Most people are so focused on what they don't have that they completely miss the abundance that's already flowing to them. True spiritual gratitude recognizes that you are already wealthy beyond measure. You have access to oxygen, to sunlight, to the incredible intelligence of your body, to the beauty of nature. You live in a universe that is constantly giving to you. When you genuinely feel grateful for this existing abundance, you align yourself with the frequency of receiving even more. But here's the key: this gratitude must be authentic, not forced. You cannot fake your way into abundance by pretending to be grateful. The universe responds to your genuine emotional state, not to your words or actions alone. When gratitude becomes your natural response to life, when appreciation flows through you automatically, you become a magnet for even greater blessings. The fifth principle is what I call divine detachment. This might sound contradictory to wanting financial abundance, but it's actually essential. Divine detachment means that while you're working toward prosperity, you're not attached to it for your sense of worth or security. You're not desperate or needy about money because you understand that your true security comes from your connection to the infinite source of all abundance. When you're attached to money, when you need it to feel safe or valuable, you actually repel it. Desperation and neediness are low-frequency emotions that block the flow of abundance. But when you're detached, when you know that you're already complete and valuable regardless of your bank account, money flows to you much more easily. This doesn't mean you don't care about money or that you don't take action to improve your financial situation. It means you hold your financial goals lightly. You work toward them with enthusiasm and dedication, but you don't make your happiness or self-worth dependent on achieving them. This paradox of caring deeply while remaining detached is one of the most powerful states of consciousness for attracting wealth. Now let me address something that stops many people from accessing these principles. They think they're not worthy of abundance. They believe that their past mistakes, their current circumstances, or their lack of education or connections disqualify them from divine prosperity. This is another lie that keeps people trapped in financial limitation. Your worthiness for abundance was established the moment you were created. It has nothing to do with your performance, your past, or your current situation. You are worthy of abundance because you exist, because you are a unique expression of divine consciousness. No one else can contribute to the world exactly what you can contribute. Your unique gifts and perspectives are needed, and the universe wants to support you in sharing them. But worthiness isn't just about believing you deserve good things. It's about recognizing that your prosperity serves a purpose greater than your personal comfort. When you become truly wealthy, you become a steward of divine resources. You become responsible for using those resources in ways that serve the highest good of all. This brings us to another crucial principle: circulation. Money is energy, and like all energy, it must flow to remain healthy. People who hoard money, who grip it tightly out of fear, actually block the flow of more abundance into their lives. But people who understand circulation, who give generously and spend wisely, create space for even more abundance to flow to them. Circulation doesn't mean being careless with money or giving beyond your means. It means being a conscious steward of the resources that flow through your life. It means giving generously when you're guided to give, investing wisely in your own growth and development, and spending money in ways that support your values and goals. When you understand that money is meant to flow, not to be hoarded, you stop being afraid of spending it appropriately. You stop making financial decisions from fear and start making them from wisdom and trust. You become a conscious participant in the divine economy, where resources flow to where they can do the most good. Here's something else most people don't understand about God's secret menu of money: it requires you to think bigger than your current circumstances. Most people set financial goals based on what seems realistic or achievable given their current situation. But divine abundance operates outside the limitations of current circumstances. When you access God's secret menu, you start setting goals that inspire and challenge you, goals that require you to grow into the person who can receive and manage that level of abundance. You stop thinking in terms of salary increases and start thinking in terms of creating value on a massive scale. You stop thinking about getting out of debt and start thinking about building generational wealth that can bless your family and community for decades to come. This bigger thinking isn't about greed or ego. It's about recognizing the magnitude of your potential impact. When you think small, you serve small. When you think big, you serve big. The universe wants to work through you to create positive change in the world, but it can only work through you to the degree that you're willing to expand your vision and capacity. The final principle I want to share with you today is what I call divine patience with human action. This means that while you trust in divine timing and divine provision, you also take consistent, inspired action in the physical world. You don't just pray and wait. You pray and work. You trust and act. You surrender and strive. Too many people think that accessing spiritual principles means they don't have to work hard or develop practical skills. That's not how these laws work. The universe helps those who help themselves, but it helps them in ways that go far beyond what they could achieve through effort alone. When you combine spiritual alignment with practical action, you tap into a power that can create results that seem miraculous. This is God's secret menu of money: divine alignment, sacred service, divine timing and trust, releasing guilt about prosperity, authentic gratitude, divine detachment, recognizing your inherent worthiness, understanding circulation, thinking bigger than your circumstances, and combining divine patience with human action. These aren't just concepts to think about. These are principles to live by, to embody, to make part of your daily experience. When you do this consistently, when you make these principles your way of being in the world, you access a level of abundance that most people never even imagine is possible. Your financial breakthrough isn't just about having more money. It's about becoming the person who can receive, manage, and steward divine abundance for the highest good of all. It's about stepping into your role as a conscious creator, a divine steward, a channel for infinite prosperity. The secret menu has always been available. The question is, are you ready to order from it?